Hi, welcome to Church History 1 by Ma'am Czarina Sarmiento. The persecuted church under 100 to 313 AD, the Edict of Constantine, formation of anti-canon, and the growth eschatestical. I am Jei El Alarcio. The persecuted church refers to the early Christian communities and believers who faced various forms of persecution from the Roman authorities and other societal groups. Between the years 100 and 313 AD, this period of persecution is commonly known as the Age of Martyrs. During this time, Christianity was a relatively new and minority religion in the Roman Empire, and its rapid spread and distinct beliefs often clashed with established religious practices and social norms. Notable emperors who persecuted Christians. Number 1, Nero, Domitian, Decius, Valerian, and Diocletian. Reasons for the persecution of Christians. Number one, it's about religious conflicts. Christianity challenged the traditional Roman religious practices and the emperor's status as deity. Number two, the social disruption. Christians often refuse to participate in certain social and civic activities that were tied to pagan rituals. So they don't participate. A Christian doesn't participate in rituals, pagan rituals. That's why they are being persecuted. Number three, economic impact. Many aspects of Roman religious practices were tied to economic activities, such as temple offerings and sacrifices. Number four, scapegoating. During times of crisis, such as disease, outbreaks, or military defeats, Christians were sometimes blamed and targeted as scapegoats. So they are being blamed whenever there's crisis, whenever there is outbreak of disease, or even they are being defeated. There's military defeat. They are being blamed. Christians were being blamed in their times. And number five, lack of loyalty. Christians' refusal to participate in emperor worship was seen as a sign of disloyalty to the state. So because they don't worship, they don't follow the worship way the emperor worship, it calls us the disloyalty to the state. So the persecution took various forms. Those are the ways that the Christians are being persecuted before. Number one, in a way of imprisonment. Number two, they are being tortured. It is really terrible. They are being tortured. And some of them are thrown into lions' den, and so many things. Number three, confiscation of property. Even their properties are being confiscated. And lastly, execution. So those are the forms. The forms on how the Christian are being persecuted before. Many Christians became martyrs and willingly facing death rather than renouncing their faith. So they are really, they stood in their faith. They are strong in their faith, even though it is really hard. Let us go back the forms of persecution. Even those things are happening still. They are willingly facing death rather than renouncing their faith. They are really strong in their faith to the Lord. These martyrs became symbols of courage and steadfastness for the early Christian communities. Despite the persecution, Christianity continued to spread and gain followers, and the stories of the martyrs inspired others to join the faith. So even in the times of persecution, still the Christianity continued to spread. I remember in the Bible, especially the Israelites, they are being oppressed and persecuted when they are in Egypt, but still they are uh, multiplied, just like the situation here. Even though there is persecution, Christianity is still possible. to spread continually and gain many followers. The persecution also led to the development of early Christian theology and writings, and believers sought to understand and explain their faith in the face of adversity. So this time, even though they are, this time it is also the time of the theologian, those writers to write about their faith. Now, let's talk about the Edict of Constantine, the formation of New Testament, and the growth eschatestical. Number one, the Edict of Constantine, 313 AD. The Edict of Constantine, also called the Edict of Milan, issued in 313 AD by the Emperor Constantine. The Great and his co-emperor Licinius marked a significant turning point for the persecuted church. This edict granted religious tolerance to Christians and officially ended the persecution they had endured for centuries. Finally, the persecution has now ended. And now, the Christians are allowed to practice their faith openly and freely. Restored, even their confiscated properties are now being restored. And they are now enabled Christian clergy to participate in civic life. Number two, the formation of New Testament canon. The formation of the New Testament canon, it is the process of forming the New Testament. New Testament canon involved the recognition and acceptance of certain writings as divinely inspired and central to the faith. The canonization process helped solidify Christian beliefs and practice and provided a unifying foundation for the growing church. Lastly, the growth eschatestical structures. Number one, as the church grew in size and influence, it became necessary to establish clear lines of authority and leadership. The emergence of bishops, synods, and councils helped shape the ecclesiastical hierarchy and establish a framework for decision making on theological and doctrinal matters. Now, during the time of persecution, the Christians' resilience and commitment to their faith, even in the face of danger, played a significant role in the growth and establishment of the early Christian church. Nowadays, I would like to encourage you that even though there's persecution, whenever you experience persecution, you can still expect great things from the Lord. And that's all that I can report to you regarding the persecuted church.